I'm Curtis Woloschuk, Director of Programming at the Vancouver International Film Festival, and today I'm in conversation with Jeff Petry, one of the directors of Ari's Theme. In Ari's Theme, Ari Kinarthy was born with the soul of an artist and passion for composing music. He lives with spinal muscular atrophy, which progressively weakens his muscles and severely limits his movements. Yet he embarks on an ambitious goal, to create music that will capture his life and leave a legacy through which others will remember him. Thoroughly engaging and beautifully made, Ari's Theme will make you weep and smile, all the while appreciating life's tender workings and the constant movement of time. Welcome to the VIFF podcast. This is your chance to get the inside track from people behind the films you love and the films you're yet to discover. This podcast was recorded on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. Recorded during the 43rd edition of the Vancouver International Film Festival, these conversations take us behind the scenes with the creators bringing their work to the big screen. I'm Curtis Woloschuk, Director of Programming at VIFF, and today I'm in conversation with Jeff Petry, one of the directors of Ari's Theme. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we'll say a few words about the film. Ari's Theme had its world premiere at Hot Docs earlier this year. It follows Ari, who's a composer living with disability, and finds him at a moment where he's thinking about his legacy, what he wants to leave behind, both cinematic and musical, and starts composing a score for his life, his memories, and yourself and your co-director, Nathan Drillot, embarked on this odyssey with Ari. I'm curious how maybe the two of you first came into Ari's orbit, or how did you become familiar with him, familiar with his story, and maybe embark on this project together?
Yeah, we came across Ari's story while we were sort of researching or casting a different project. Nathan's partner, Katrine Bragador, she runs a really great research and casting company, and she was doing some research for us, and she came across Ari's story in like a local publication, something to do with when he'd won an award for a piece of music that he'd composed. And she was like, this isn't for this project, but maybe you guys want to have a look at this. So we were immediately like, yeah, okay, this is interesting. Like, we'll put it aside for now, but we'll circle back to it a little bit later. And then we eventually got around to it, and then we could see like the beginnings of something interesting there. Here was Ari, who had a very like unique life experience. His SMA was mentioned in the article, so we had some idea of his disability, but we thought, okay, here's a chance to work with, or potentially a chance to work with an artist who can speak a language that we can't, music, and can express his perspective on life or his life experience through a different medium, and like, let's play with that, let's see what's there. So we reached out to Ari, and I mean, Ari loves to tell this story that he thought it was a scam at first, because the only way to contact him that we could find was through Facebook. So we reached out and got talking with him, and what came out immediately and was sort of like that ingredient that kind of completes, when you're looking for a story, you're like, is this complete? Like, is this whole? How do we make it? Was that he was very open immediately about my condition will shorten my life significantly. I think I have, on the pessimistic side, 2 years, on the optimistic side, 5 years. I think he probably has more. But so he was very open about that. And that brought about this extra layer of like, oh, okay, like what's important to you at this point as an artist? And he said legacy. And okay, there it is. Like this allows us to kind of embark on some journey with him. And then we were, came to him with the idea of what would it be like for you to like write music about your life and then have us play with that cinematically, and then you score it. Was very much not a linear process, but
what was the time frame? If like maybe from that first conversation with Ari to the three of you and your crew embarking into shooting the film?
It was quite quick, a lot quicker than we're used to in doc. Nathan and I usually embark on like 3 to 5 year journeys with these films, and this one all kind of happened within a 2-year span. Everything fell into place very quickly. The funding from TELUS Originals folks fell into place really quickly. Ari was into it and available. We were available, so it was all just kind of like happened very quickly, relatively speaking. But yeah, the whole project's taken us 2 years. But yeah, the conversations with Ari, I mean, he was very much into it immediately. Like, oh my God, like, here's this amazing chance. So he was into it, but it did take a while for us to get out of that, what we think the film is, as into the what we feel the film is, into the, out of the head and into the heart kind of thing.
Well, it does feel like there's kind of a greater movement afoot right now about how directors of documentary and nonfiction work kind of approach what may have been the subjects of their film, or viewed as subjects of the film at some point in time, and having those individuals have more agency in the process as well. And this feels like a really remarkable expression of that, of this really kind of symbiotic relationship between musician and filmmakers, yourselves learning about the process of music, himself perhaps learning about the process of film. And was that a new exploration for yourselves, or was that something you kind of found with Wizard Mode as well, in terms of how you wanted to engage with the people you were capturing or bringing to screen as well?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that came out to you through watching the film, because, yeah, I mean, it's been a very prioritized thing within Nathan and I's filmmaking, the relationship with the subject and how that conversation is happening. Over the years, very much learned that this is akin to a therapeutic space and can be really rattling to people if you don't create the kind of right container, if you don't do the check-ins and be aware. And, excuse me, Nathan and I both have very different personalities, and kind of as a combination, we have this very like calming effect, we find, and confidence building with people very quickly. We don't do that out of manipulation, just out of like kind of our own filmmaking experience, and our own curiosities are better served by it. So,
wondering for yourself, in reading your bio, it talks about yourself, your trek kind of being like, got a pilot's license, went to cooking school. Found your way into kind of photography and film, but your two feature films with Wizard Mode and Ari's Theme have like these individuals who are very driven in one pursuit. And I'm curious, like for yourself, for maybe someone who had to travel a bit before finding your space in the world, is there kind of like single-mindedness as individuals, something that really kind of attracts you to being the stuff of film as well?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought of that. And where the heck did you get your hands on that old bio? Yeah, I mean, I generally like to consider myself a curious person, and that's what kind of landed me in this doc world, was the ability to kind of be installed into someone's life for a time and really have a deep hang with them. Yeah, it's I don't know what it is about. I think with Wizard Mode, it's always the chance to tell a story that maybe messes with like a common narrative. Like Wizard Mode, of course, is about a young man who has autism, is on the spectrum, and becomes a world champion. So really, it's a story about a family who like embraced something that very difficult and turned it into something like really beautiful and amazing. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that, but they did that, and like, let's celebrate that. And with Ari, it was a chance to kind of work with an artist who has a unique perspective. We were really, really particular or careful off the start to distinguish that this was not a film about a disability. This was a film about an artist who has a disability. And yeah, maybe sounds small in the sentence, but like a rather large distinction. And yeah, I kind of liked that idea of being able to kind of mess around with that common narrative or those expectations. Will we explain SMA to you? No. If you want, you can go Google it. But he has it. Okay, let's move on to him as an artist and his life trajectory. Yeah.
I do like, and I appreciate what you're saying there about that, seemingly subtle but really important distinction about whether this is a film about a disability or an artist who's living with it.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to contribute maybe to like the conversation after we've gotten over those kinds of films.
Right.
Like, okay, what's next? How do we portray people more authentically? And yeah, it's a chance.
Well, and to that point, yeah, I'm wondering about maybe you mentioned, Ari, like to tell the story about thinking this was a scam when the two of you approached him on Facebook. But beyond that, was there a process of kind of like building trust in terms of how you would portray his story, and that it would be about the art and not the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, film in general is really just about time, and documentary requires the most of it. It's the thing we require most, and so really it was just getting lots of time in with Ari, and just, I kind of like to take a camera in first and just get rolling, get things started, but then I like to take it away and then just hang. And that's kind of what we had a chance to do with Ari, is just like hang out. As is portrayed in the film, Ari spends a good portion of the year isolated because of health reasons. And that just allowed me a chance to kind of spend the winter with him. And I'd, hike over to Victoria and spend a couple of days talking through stuff. And, we eventually got to a place where we were kind of, like I said before, out of the head and into the heart a little bit more. And the funny thing to me is, like, looking back on the film now, you see the music that was kind of written in the beginning, and it's like the heroic stuff. It's like the video game scene, yeah. and it's more heroic and bombastic and John Williams like, and this was Ari doing what he thinks he should be doing. It doesn't take away from the work. The work is great, but it's what he thinks he should be doing for the film. And then later on, you see these other pieces come out, and they're more gentle and thoughtful and a little bit more, precarious, maybe, in the way that, a little more chance taking. And that's when we were in the feeling zone of, like, listen, Ari, you don't need to worry about, the conversation that an artist has about, like, oh, I want to give something of myself and present it to the world. And then there's the bounce back of that being like, oh shit, now I'm going to get judged by everybody. And how does that alter your work? We all go through it. I got to watch Ari go through it, right, through this process. And he would be distraught at times. And I'd be like, I'm right there with you, man. Like, we have cameras on you. We're making a film about you. We also hope it's good. Yeah.
I find that that inversion, if you will, of like the bombastic kind of masking of maybe some insecurities earlier, or the need to prove oneself, to make a statement in that space, yeah. And then that growing into a comfort level in order to allow the gentler, more thoughtful pieces to express in a more subtle way, perhaps, the circumstances. And I'm wondering, was there any mirroring of that or paralleling of that for yourselves in terms of maybe how you wanted to visually approach the film? Because the film does, operates on these different levels of archival home video. I think some pretty clear-eyed, just depictions of how Ari goes about his days, but then also these kind of fantasy sequences as well. And wondering for yourselves of determining how you wanted to kind of balance those three. Was that a process that evolved over the shooting of the film?
Yeah, for Ari, he's sort of doing this. It's not the first time he's creating music, of course. He's accomplished and done quite a few things, but this is the first time he's involved in this kind of project, and it's not the first time Nathan and I are involved in this kind of project. Nathan and I have been together for, like, making projects together for, like, almost 15 years. Like, we're like, we call each other road wives. Like, we're just, we have a shorthand. So for us, I think the experience is different. It was beautiful to see Ari go through this process in a new way. But for us, it was more so like at the beginning of this process, I was like, I really want to just every scene to just be what it wants to be, and I don't want to worry about the continuity of, like, the overall aesthetic. I want it just everything to kind of be that. And Nathan would bounce back his ideas, and I don't, like, I was like adamant, I do not want one talking head in this film. Like, there cannot be one, and there's one, and Nathan got it, and it's so beautiful and so poignant, like, it's so good. And I was so resistant to it. I was like, cover it up with footage. I don't care. Like, I don't want, but so there's certain things where you're like, I want this to push us a little bit. I want this to like help us. But the film has to be what it has to be, and it's not some scripted thing. There's a real person involved whose story it is. So we kind of have to take those expectations, and I always think about it as clay that you're kind of taking away, and what is left is hopefully what's supposed to be there.
I feel like this is the point where we should cut to the other interrogation room where like Nathan's telling his side of the story, and he's like, and then Jeff was like, and I had to be like, and make sure your stories align as well. It's a natural question, I suppose, that arises with directing duos, but for yourselves, what is that kind of division of labor or symbiotic relationship kind of look like for the two of you? Is it a matter of kind of maybe, you talked about the kind of undermining expectations with the films you've made. I wonder if in your working process, is it about like each of you kind of like calling each other maybe some tendencies or things like this, or more so kind of just pushing each other as well? Yeah,
I mean, it's often not a pleasant process, but often it is. I mean, I very much enjoy. I think Nathan is an extremely strong filmmaker. He has sort of had this singular vision since being a young man. I obviously have not. I've been all over the place, done all these different things. Like, it comes to me in a different way, and our priorities are different. But it's that combination that I think really works. And when it does work, it's hugely gratifying and really beautiful. But yeah, we've had editors like almost have nervous breakdowns while Nathan and I scrap in the background. It's terrible. I'm so sorry. But it's been a long and kind of beautiful working relationship.
When do those, we don't want to dig into all the disputes, but just curious about is that more so on the post side, or like when you're not on set, but when you're shooting on a given day, is that more of a space for exploration? And then when it comes time for editing and creating a concrete form for this, it's just a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the any sort of like disagreements or ideas get thrown around sort of before and after, but during is we're pretty locked in. We've done it so much together that it's like really fun, because even if we don't have cameras in our hands, you'll see us kind of like go and stand in the places that we would have. And we're just naturally like, in the beginning, we were always in each other's shot and getting mad at the other guy for being in each other's shot. And now it's rarely the case, just because we've done it so many times and we're shooting two cameras a lot. With Ari, it was never two cameras. It was one camera. So we were both kind of just take turns putting it where we want, placing this tripod or whatever where we want it, and talking about it. But yeah, it's never in the moment, because I think that would probably be an inappropriate space to have a lot of those conversations, because then it's not about us.
You save it for your editors to have to be privy to such things, to your domestic disputes.
I mean, this you're rewriting it, and then right. It's a whole different film at that point.
There are countless examples of kind of like scenes of be it composers or kind of like music being committed to page, if you will, like in the annals of cinema, very dramatic type pieces, things like this. And I was wondering if maybe yourself and Nathan had particular conversations about how you wanted to kind of like honor the craft of composition as we see Ari writing and composing the score as well. And was there like, did it take you a while maybe to find like the right visual language for that, or the right visual depictions of that? Or was it quite natural in terms of how you found your way of like, honoring his craft and also making it, dramatic in terms of cinema as well?
Yeah. I mean, this might not be directly addressing your question, but I think when we first started to get in the room with Ari and spend time with him and see what his process was, and his process at that point was making MIDI compositions at home, and then once or twice a week going to visit Alan, this music therapist who he's been seeing for over a decade now, and writing stuff in a more kind of free flowy way, because then you had a pair of hands to play instruments for him and to explore stuff. And the question then became, okay, well, we have to be true to Ari's, I don't know I never know how to say this, but sort of the banality of some of his life, like the boringness of it. Because for 8 months a year, he's, isolating himself, and he's kind of at this computer station, or he's like, maybe around the house a little bit, but not very much, not a lot. And it's quite, yeah, I mean, his interiority is where it's all happening. But as a filmmaker, you're showing this, and okay, well, we want to reflect the fact that it kind of looks boring on the surface, but how do we then kind of explore that interiority? So then it became this like, okay, well, how do we depict what's going on inside, and then how do we relate that to him composing music about it? Because the actual composition looks like him, sitting in front of a computer, not moving very much.
Yeah. And
so you can't spend a lot of time with that. Like, you can't ask an audience to sit with that for too long before you need to let them in on what else is going on. It was just like, I don't know if that's answering your question directly, but it's was a consideration, and that's where that thing of, okay, like, each scene just needs to be what it is, and see what happens when we start putting these things together.
How involved, if at all, was Ari in that rewriting during the editing process? Because there, you mentioned kind of the building of trust with him, and then the sense of responsibility that comes with being charged with telling someone's story and capturing a legacy.
Yeah.
Was he involved in the editing process, or was that a conversation that was had?
He was. I mean, because of, like, our being in Vancouver and his being he being in Victoria, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for him to sit with us in the edit. But as cuts came out, they were put in front of him, both as a composer and as the subject to, okay, so we had a lot of, like, really interesting, like, I don't know, boundaries is like a strong word, but, like, there were parts of the film that were, Nathan and I were completely like, Ari, what is this okay? Mm-hmm. Like, these, and those were the stories, the memories and the stories that Ari came up with. Those things had to be, like the pneumonia depiction. What do you think of this? Is this representing what you think? Yeah, it's great. Or the Nick and Ari story didn't really happen that way. Let's, okay, so we have to adjust. And then there are other parts of the film where we're like, we as the filmmakers, this is our film. So we get to make these decisions. And, it's not that harsh, of course. Like, if Ari really wasn't comfortable with something or hated something, it was a discussion. Like the love scene, the part where he talks about love. I personally was at first kind of adverse to this. This was another one of, like, Nathan's, he's like, no, it's got to go in. And I was like, I don't know if we can just talk about it this long, and I don't know if it feels exploitative. I know Ari hates it. It was the one area that Ari was like, we're not going there. I'm not talking about that. I don't want to talk about it. Da, da, da. And then we did this scene, and we were just like, okay, well, let's show it to him. And at first he was like, And then he showed it to his family, and then we spent time talking about it. And, and then this is right about the time where Ari was kind of really discovering as an artist that the vulnerability is where his strength is, not in the posturing and see what I can do, but in the vulnerability. And then he was like, yeah, you know what? This is meaningful. It is a part of me. Let's put it in. And it's most people's, like, it's a lot of people's favorite scene.
Yeah. I'm curious about those. I guess maybe the first screening then, at Hot Docs, where there's these particular scenes where, like, you're operating with a certain level of uncertainty and taking some things on faith as well, and or letting Nathan have the say. And then you have the opportunity to see it with an audience and hear where those moments resonate with a group of people as well. And wondering, maybe other than the love scene, was there moments that you experienced like a different response from the audience, or even a stronger response from the audience than maybe what you saw yourselves in the editing bay?
I don't think so, but that's only because of preparation. Like we we had like a group of people we put together, and we sent them screeners, and we're like, what are your thoughts on this, and this? I think there were a number of moments within the film that we didn't quite know how the family was going to react, so we put it out to them. Like I sat with Ari's mom when we showed her the scene where she's like, I don't want to ever go on another trip until Ari's normal, if he's ever going to be normal. Like the use of that word, it's probably pretty hard to hear for Ari and for his mom. And we sat with it, and we talked about like what people would take away from it, and she was like, yeah, I mean, it was not an easy time, and maybe someone will see this and say, yeah, it's not easy, and I can relate, and maybe it's useful. So, I mean, there was a lot of those kind of instances where we really took it to and sat with it and said, how does this feel? And this is how we think the audience will react. But in the audience itself, like listening to him, I think it was maybe just surprising for Ari to hear people laugh at certain points that weren't, he wasn't expecting them to. But those are like really nice laughs. Like, toward the end when he's like, I'm easy to love. I mean, I fall in love easily. Those kinds of authentic moments are just so endearing, I think.
Well, I think part of that probably comes from the having the determination to be honest in those other scenes as well, about like you said, either it's the isolation that he experiences on many occasions, or some of those moments of perhaps things being said that folks regret. I think it allows those instances of humor to land all the more because they've been come about honestly as well. And I think the kind of process by which to again build trust with the the filmmaker, the family, film subject and the family, and allow all that to be shown on screen is just makes for that much richer of an experience.
Yeah, I mean we're super thankful that, because there's nothing worse than getting into a project and then somebody's like, I'm not going there, and you're like, oh, what do we do? So Ari really stepped up to this. He really did. He really rose to the occasion.
You mentioned Alan, the music therapist who we see in the film, and how much of that world were you familiar with before? Like, did you do a lot of research into music therapy and the forms that takes before shooting, or was that really an area of like exploration and learning for yourselves?
Yeah, I knew nothing of it, and we didn't really know how big of a role that was going to take on. I think, once we learned that Alan, and this was part of Ari's practice, we were like, okay, let's go see what this is. And then we were like, oh, okay, this is a dynamic duo, that this will be a really large part of the film. And then it sort of got pared back a little bit throughout the course of the edit and throughout the course of kind of exploring the scenes. And when Johannes and that whole part of the film came to be, we started to see that it was like the build-up part, and less the whole backbone. But I the interesting part is that the Victoria Conservatory of Music, having just gone in, my only time being spent with Ari and Alan, I just thought this was what music therapy was. But this is a very special program. And later, Nathan Med, the CEO at VCM, was telling me, he's like, yeah, this doesn't exist anywhere else. Like, in very few places. There are a lot of places in Canada that are actually looking, and the States that are looking at VCM's program and being like, how can we do this? Because they've really integrated it beautifully into the greater conservatory and the greater school. And this film kind of allowed them an opportunity to really like it was not our intention, but they were just so supportive of it. But it's kind of like this perfect calling card for them, because it does show the integration and how that can really be possible. Because as the students come in to help Ari record this stuff, record his compositions live.
Well, and I believe that, based on some earlier conversations we've had as well, this now is maybe part of the evergreen nature of the film, if you will, to some degree, or your thoughts around how to incorporate this into the greater rollout of the film is to really engage with these communities of music therapists, be it here in BC or elsewhere as well.
Yeah, no, definitely part of our impact campaign. I mean, it would love. I mean, the special screening that we're having at VIFF is just like such a beautiful opportunity for us, because it is something that we had sort of hoped and designed. The film is actually kind of designed around this. Like the completion of the film is an audience sitting there watching Ari look at the audience from behind a curtain, and expressing his gratitude for them kind of being there and being a part of this completion of legacy or accomplishment of legacy. So the opportunity to have it live scored is incredible and will be a real proof of concept, I think. And our hope is to do it with other orchestras, and then to do like different conservatories and schools, to maybe make that part of their curriculums, or a part of, to have it be part of a curriculum. I think it would be amazing for that.
Well, yeah, I guess there's no better place than the VIFF podcast for self-promotion.
Yeah.
So we will say, that the opening film for the festival this year is Ari's Theme, with 8 members of the VSO live scoring it. And traditionally, the film is written on paper. It's written again when it's shot. It's written again, as you said, when it's edited. And then on this occasion, then the score is kind of torn up again in order for it to be recomposed for 8 live players. And maybe can you speak a little bit to just like what that probably mad dash of a process has been like with Ari over the last few weeks of thinking about the presentation of the film with a live accompaniment?
Yeah, well, we're all terrified. It goes without saying. Yeah, everybody's terrified. But it's going to, we have all the pieces we need. It's just everybody's getting there. It's just orchestras in that world moves at such a different pace. They have a different time scale and metric than film does. So everybody's a little bit like, oh God, what have we gotten ourselves into? But it is, Ari's happy. We got notes yesterday. Ari's happy with the arrangement. So I think it's going to be fine. I think we're all going to sleep good the night before, is my hope anyway.
Or at least the night after.
The night after, for sure.
That's when the exhaustion will hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that there's certainly the constant reminder in this space that film, be it on the production side or on the presentation side, is just like operating at a very different pace. It's we never quite get used to it when we talk to other arts organizations we're trying to, whether we're working to collaborate with, and they're always great collaborations, but it's like, oh, you mean this September? Now we're talking about like 5 weeks from now. We can make this happen, right?
Yeah, film is sort of sadistic in this way. Like I always use the analogy, like you'll go into this like warehouse space and you'll be like, okay, this is the set. And sure enough, the camera will be crammed in one corner with 15 people, just like crammed in a corner with all of this space. And that's kind of, it's just what filmmaking is. It's like, no, we have no time. We got to go.
We have no time. We have no space.
Yeah.
Let's just make this as challenging for ourselves as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I am going to take this moment. We've been warned that we have to do this. I'm going to reach into the random popcorn bucket and see what emerges from it.
This is where I go for my secret tea.
Exactly. Get real creative with it. If you had to have one film director's style influence your life, whose would it be? So it sounds like this is not actually influencing your filmmaking, but your life.
Kirsten Johnson?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why does she come to mind right away?
I just like the way I've always been caught up in camera person, how there are these scenes where she's like filming a goat or something, or some sheep or something, and she's giggling behind the camera, and she's kind of talking, and she's just so present and in it, and enjoyful. And yeah, I was just like caught so off guard by that, and so enamored with that, and I was like, damn, that's really beautiful. And the sneeze after the lightning strike and stuff, it's just like that kind of lightness and sense of humor, but like also attentiveness and awareness, and the compassion she has. I mean, those are all things we strive for. I strive for that.
That's a really lovely answer. And I think that, subsequent film Dick Johnson as well, like, you think about that in terms of legacy and how one addresses their own mortality as well. And I think there's some really lovely parallels there with Ari's theme. Yeah,
it was definitely one of those reference marks for sure. I mean, Afterlife, Death of Dick Johnson, those are all sort of Kurosawa's dreams. Those are all kind of like pieces that we were looking at for inspiration.
Excellent, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure talking today, and we look forward to presenting the film at the festival. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Curtis. It's always so fun to talk with you. Yeah.
You have been listening to the VIFF podcast. Thanks to our community broadcast partner, TELUS Story Hive, for their support. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and review this podcast, and be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Visit viff.org to learn more about the Vancouver International Film Festival and see what's on at the VIFF Center year-round.